Before taking you down to Waverley, what I thought I'd first do is show you a map of the area. This is the most important thing, the B6066. Now I was looking for the village of Orgreave, and that's what started me off on that. And the old colliery, I understand, is if you follow this road down here, it was about here, my understanding, the old colliery Pithead. In between here and here was Rotherwood House, which was the social club for the colliery, and also Orgreave House, where he got his name from. The coking plant was somewhere over here, and that was part of the Battle of Orgreave. The colliery shut down in 1981. In 1984, the coking plant was still working, and they tried to stop the coal getting in or getting out, the product. And then there was a battle here. So the housing for Waverley is just here, and it looks like they're expanding that housing right down to the lake by the looks of it. Up here is the advanced manufacturing park, and that's the only bit that's actually built on sort of green belt. This was actually like a wooded area up here. Now when they started open casting, they actually put this road round here and round here, and it's still existing now. This road is back through here, but my understanding is they probably open cast all this area round here. It could have been the whole site. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty certain they took a big chunk out here. And you can actually see in my description, I put lots of identifying links in there, and you can see a picture of how deep the open cast mine was. But you can also see a picture of this in 2006 with the whole area looking like a scarred landscape, and you can make your own deductions from that. So down here is Woodhouse Mill Recreation Ground. That's actually in Sheffield, and Rotherham wanted to put a road down through here. There's a row of terrace houses which I go and show you at the start, but that got blocked. Here is the modern part of Orgreave. About 750 people live here, and just below here is Retford Road and Woodhouse Mill, Sheffield. And I spent the first 2 years of my life there, from 64 to 66. So like I said, I've put all the identifying information in. I've got a map from, I think, 1901 or something, 1947. Now this area here is, I'm understanding, is Waverley Hill. And when they cleared the site up, they took all the toxins out, and somewhere under this hill all the toxins are in some sort of sealed container, whether that's clay like one person said, or whether it's a steel container like somebody else said. But I have put the article about this being a steel container, and the actual toxins are actually in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down to here, and I'll take you on a journey around Waverley, and I hope you enjoy it. So I'm right on the back of Treaton Church. I just want to show you a view of Waverley from here. You can see ponds just there. You can see what looks like the building up to the ponds. Then you can see the Waverley estate. And at the back of the Waverley estate you can see the advanced manufacturing park. Just a bit further round you can see some large units that are on the Sheffield side of the parkway, just there. So I'll come back round, show you. But you can pick out the difference between Waverley and everywhere else around it. So that's 4,000 houses, 1 junior school, 1 pub, 1 fish and chip shop. I think that's it at the moment, and you'll find out more as I take you around the site. Initially I set off to do a video on Orgreave and I couldn't find it, so I'm at Woodhouse Mill and I'm on the left hand side of Retford Road, which is Sheffield, and the right hand side is actually Rotherham. So what I want to do is just show you first the sluice gate at Woodhouse Mill. When they put that gate down, that pushes the water onto the fields. Behind that, and if you go on the other side of the road, that's actually going up to Waverley. Now back in 2006 the River Rother flooded quite badly up at Catcliffe. I don't know if the information's still on YouTube or wherever, but this little row of terraces is quite important, because at one bit I understand Rotherham Council tried to drive a road through there from Waverley and they didn't get the go ahead. So I'm right at the bottom of the map I showed you before, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk across the road and I'm going to show you Woodhouse Mill Recreation Ground, and amazingly that's in Sheffield. So I don't know if this row of terrace houses are in Sheffield or not, but anyway I'm going to go across the road to where Woodhouse Mill Recreation Ground is. So I'm at Woodhouse Mill Recreation Ground. As you can see, this little bit is in Sheffield, and I just found out I have got a really good memory as a kid, because that was a wine store, and I can remember as a kid getting something from there. So we're right at the bottom of what will be Waverley once you go over this green area here. And then if I zoom you right in, right up to there, that's Waverley Hill. And to me, my understanding is when they cleaned the site, they put all the toxin underneath Waverley Hill in a metal container of some kind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to Horsewood Road, where I lived as a kid, on the other side of the road in Sheffield. Left in 1966, we moved to Anston. Back in those days, Anston was part of Kiverton Rural District. It was a quaint village. 1972 came along and there was the Local Government Act, and guess what, Rotherham took us over in 1974, and all Anston became was a big housing estate, and it took 40 years to get a health centre. We're still reliant, when I lived there 7 years ago, we were still reliant on shops in Dinnington. It's never been a sustainable community, but it grew from 3,000 to 11,000 people. So I'm popping up now to the other side of Woodhouse, and I can then show you Orgreave. So you can see the signpost for Horsewood Road there, where I've lived for the first 2 years of my life, and the little corner shop's still there. You can see the railway bridge there. So I'm on the Rotherham side now, and you can see this is the bottom end of Orgreave. This is a sort of 1960s housing down here, and I've just spoken to a lady and she tells me they had to really fight to stop the road coming through from Waverley through the green field at the bottom at Woodhouse Mill, where I've just shown you. So there must have been quite a fight on to stop that. So this is the Rotherham side of the road, except the green space, and then that side of the road is the Sheffield side. So I'll now go down to Orgreave, and the thing is, you see that railway going over the top. We're actually going to go over the top of that at Orgreave. In fact, you can now see the signing on the other side of the road at Orgreave, staying Orgreave. So I've never really noticed that, but I wouldn't have noticed it as a 2-year-old. So it took some doing to find Orgreave. I'm on the B606 Rotherham Road. That's Handsworth up there. I have seen a picture, I think, from the 1960s, and this was all sort of grassland round here. So this is Orgreave Lane. If you go up Orgreave Lane there, it'll take you to the traffic lights up towards the top of Handsworth Hill. My family all come from Handsworth. So what I'll do is when I get to the bottom of Orgreave Lane, just down here, I'll restart the camera. So I'm on one of the roads that came into Orgreave, on Orgreave Lane. You can see the graffiti from the 1980s. Now if Scargill had been more astute, he'd have won. And on this side you can see more graffiti. I don't like graffiti, but this is very poignant, this 1984. So 1984 was a great year for me. Just came out of the steel, well, in 85 I came out of the steelworks, 1st of April. Started working for Midland Bank. It wasn't an April Fool's because I was there until 2000, until I decided to leave. So 1984 was a good year. 1985 I ran the Sheffield Marathon. So that'll take you back up to Handsworth. So what I'm going to do is, this is one access road into Orgreave. You see they've narrowed it. It would have been a bit of a struggle to get in. I've just spoke to a guy and he said there was a few houses down here, but generally speaking there wasn't many houses. There was only Orgreave at the bottom end that I showed you previously. But he said this road ran right through to the lake, and the actual pit head was actually near where the lake was. And he says they've actually removed it. He says they're actually going to build right up to the lake now with new houses as well, which is what I thought, because they're putting drains in for it. So I'll go down now to the Waverley roundabout and show you down there. Well, I'll start off at the boundary with Sheffield and Rotherham, which is another mystery to me. You can just see the other bridge I'm going to take you to. I thought I'd just show it you. You can see it just going over the railway, and this is the railway from Woodhouse into Darnell. Woodhouse is over my shoulder, so I now pop up to the boundary between Sheffield and Rotherham. This is really funny because if you look down here, that says Sheffield, so I've zoomed in quite a bit. You can see all these houses here, and then the sign for Rotherham's down here. So am I in a no man's land between Sheffield and Rotherham? Now it says Rotherham on this sign, it says Rotherham coming into where I live as well, but on it you'll see it says Metropolitan Borough. So I don't know if this was really in Rotherham or not, because Rotherham Metropolitan Borough was created in 1974. Before that, Rotherham had a population of about 90,000, and then they increased it to 250,000. But Rotherham Metropolitan Borough is not Rotherham. It's just a big overreach, and that was under the Local Government Act of 1972, and I want to see Rotherham Metropolitan Borough dissolved. Let's go back to Rotherham, Wentworth and Dearne and Rother Valley, and let's have three separate organisations. So what I'm trying to do is show you the original road. Into Orgreave. So I'm on what would have been the B6066, and it's been moved a bit. You can see the modern bridge there, but to my knowledge this was the old B6066 into Orgreave. So that's the modern bit. I'm going to come back down there in a minute. I just wanted to show you this. This is the original one. It looks like it was probably single carriageway. You had to wait in the other direction for the other traffic to come through. So I just pop round the corner now onto the new bridge. So I'm now on the B6066 on the new route, and it's the most important route through Waverley. and you'll find out why in a minute. So same again, that's coming from Woodhouse. And that'll be going into Sheffield or into Darnell. But this would have been formerly Orgreave. And when you get down to this first roundabout, I would expect a head winding wheel on this site to celebrate Orgreave, but Orgreave as such, colliery has been wiped off the map. You can start to see the bottom left hand corner of the housing. When I get to the roundabout I'll start again. So here's a map showing us here where we are, and it's a bit difficult to know where I am on screen. So you are here, this roundabout. So this is the B6066. You can see it, so the B606 goes up there. So originally the colliery was probably about here. This is Waverley Hill here, which I'm going to walk on top of, and I'll actually show you a view of the lakes from there when I get up to them. It's only about a minute walk from here, but I don't want to bore you just walking and not showing you anything. You've pretty much got a bird's eye view of Waverley Lakes here. I'm also told there's a bit of a battle going on because some people like to call it Orgreave Lakes. So we got the Battle of Orgreave all over again. So it looks to me as though they're building houses right up to the side of the lake, and then you can see the view behind it if I just zoom in a bit. But this is my third attempt at a video. Took my first one down. Second one I wasn't happy with, but this one I can't give you a better overview of Orgreave and Waverley than this. And you can see the advanced manufacturing part behind Waverley, which is still part of Waverley, that's what it says. Forget about the old addresses you see, and that's not right. So here we have a monument to the old colliery, and I believe it should be a winding wheel on that first roundabout as well. You can see his feet at the back, and you can see loads of these all over the site. Now I'm actually on what's known as Waverley Hill, and my understanding is under here when they cleaned the site they stuck all the toxins. Now one person says it was in a clay cover, and another one says it's under a metal or in a metal container of some kind. We've also got some cages over here. I'll just show you these. Struggling a bit with the light. I'll walk right up to one and start the video again. So you can see here, they must be able to take samples of what's going off underground just here, checking the gas levels and that to make sure there's not going to be any explosions, I'm assuming. But like I said, the pit head was closer to the actual water, and it's been erased, so they can actually build houses up to the lake. Now, I live in Dinnington at the moment, and we've had the reclamation of our land, and the only thing that's ever been built on the reclaimed land has been warehouses, not houses. And my belief is that the whole site has been pretty much open cast mined, and you can see a picture of both the whole site in 2006, but you can also see the open cast mining, and they were going down hundreds of foot. So what I'd like to know is how they've stabilised the land under here to build houses on it. Can anybody tell me how they stabilised the land? So what I'll do is I'll pick it back up at the roundabout, and I'll explain where the various other things were from that roundabout with the B606 being there. So you can see the B606 coming from Handsworth, and you can see Handsworth Church spire in the background. I was christened there. I'm trying to find it for you. Oh yeah, I can see it now. I think it was St Mary's at Handsworth, but I was christened there back in 1964. Now what you can see here is this is a celebration of a coal seam, and that's supposed to be the coal in the middle, but I prefer to see on this roundabout here, I prefer to see a winding wheel. Everybody knows what a winding wheel means, but nobody knows what that is at all. I ain't got a clue what it was. So if you can imagine, we're looking down where the original B6066 would have been before Waverley was built, and on the right hand side, like I've shown you, that was the pit. There's also Rotherwood House, which was an house built before the pit by one of the title families, and that became the social club, and there was also Orgreave Hall as well. So anything to do with Orgreave and the pit was on that side. So I'm now going to go up the left hand side of the site and show you some of the housing, and we'll move up to the advanced manufacturing part. So we've got one of the signs here saying we are Waverley and work-life balance. Now you can see some of the houses, and somebody told me a friend's got a house on here for 300 grand. I reckon some of these are way above 300 grand. So we're talking, say 4,000 houses at 250 grand a throw. You're talking over £1 trillion building contract. There's an awful lot of money being made on this site. Now, my understanding is when you build somewhere new like this, you build the shopping centre first, build schools or whatever, build doctors and everything. But at the moment, they're still waiting for Orchard Lane to be built. I understand there's a new health practice coming along, but my understanding is all they've got at the moment is a school, a pub and a fish and chip shop restaurant round the other side, and that's all there is that I can see anyway. But it gives you an idea of their housing from round here. There's a sort of moat around the edge. I think one of the reasons I did it is this video, as well as Orgreave, when I found out about Waverley, is I have big concerns about United Nations Agenda 2030 and 15-minute cities, and it made me wonder if this was an attempt at a 15-minute city. And what a 15-minute city is all your services are within 15 minutes of where you live. But at Waverley, they built the 4,000 houses, but you've got to get in your car to go anywhere. But I get nervous about the 15-minute cities because at the moment in Oxford, it was the 28th of February they zoned the city into 6 zones, and if you pass from one zone to the other without going on the actual ring road, you go directly from one zone to another. After 100 times in a year, they're penalising you, and I think it's 75 quid a day. So I don't know if this is a botched attempt at a 15-minute city, or whether in the end it will become a 15-minute city, and what Rotherham, once they've done that at Waverley, would then try and carry that across the borough. And like I said, I want to get rid of Rotherham Borough, because I've got no problem with Rotherham, but Rotherham and where I live are two totally separate things. So I'll catch up at the Advanced Manufacturing Park at the top. So I'm giving you an idea of the site. So there's another board just showing us where we are on there. So I've walked up from that bottom right hand roundabout, and I'm sort of halfway between that and the next roundabout. So when I get to the top roundabout, I'll pick up again with you. So we're now at the top roundabout, and you can see the Advanced Manufacturing Park here. And the unbelievable thing is, behind it is the parkway. And I've just been speaking to a guy, and he said that was all woodland up there. So they built industrial units on woodland, and then built houses on open cast mining site. So what we've got here is we've got the Wintergreen pub, and it looks very much like the Monksbridge farm at Dinnington, place I'd never frequent. I like my pubs old fashioned, like in Derbyshire. So you can see the Colosseum again. See a bit down into the estate. Now I'd be all for the Advanced Manufacturing Park, but how many of these are actually local British names? At the moment, Sheffield City Council is trying to destroy small businesses in Neepsend. So there you can see this is all going to be built on down here. Like I said, Sheffield City Council is trying to destroy Neepsend, trying to gentrify it and destroy small businesses, British businesses, and then there's so many non-British businesses on these sites. Doesn't give the small guys much chance at all. But what I'll do is I'll pick back up when I get round to the Sheffield University Training Centre. Alright, so there's another angle on it. You can see a road going down there and whatever around it. So you can see the Sheffield University building here. Sheffield, you say AMRC. Well, that's strange, isn't it? Sheffield University, but we're in Rotherham. And I do have a bone to pick with Sheffield University. Got no issue with the real universities that were around back in the 1980s. But I'm not happy with what Sheffield University is becoming Sheffield. It's destroying our city centre. And all that Sheffield City Council seem interested in Sheffield now is universities and gentrification of the city centre. They see a lot more money in that. But like I've said all along, city centres belong to us all. They're about shopping, about entertainment, about offices and things like that, but I don't believe they should be gentrifying the city centre and then screaming out about clean air zones. But I did a proper apprenticeship in the 1980s with British Steel, and it was absolutely a fantastic apprenticeship. 2 years in the training centre and 2 years on plant. Couldn't ask for more, and it was free as well. So I couldn't come down to the 150 bed hotel next. So you can see the MRC training centre, and then you can see a different kind of housing within the middle of it all. My belief is that Rotherham should have invested in existing communities and not allowed these houses to be built here. I feel that we need more 1 and 2 bedroom houses out across in our communities, and that's not happening, whereas we're getting these more exclusive houses built, these 300 grand houses. So you can now see the new hotel, 150 bed, Courtyard by Marriott. I mean, no issue with this, because having worked around the country for Midland Bank and stayed in hotels all around the UK, I'm in a decent hotel within a short distance of the city centres. Can't fault that. You can see Boundary Outlet up here, and you can also see Morrison's. But unless you've got a car, you've pretty much snookered on the Waverley estate. It's certainly not a 15-minute city, or it's a failed attempt at it, I don't know. Or it's coming along later. But my thing is, 15-minute cities don't have to happen if people actually understand the United Nations 2030 agenda and 15-minute cities. I'm warning people about that. So what I'm going to do is I'll go around the corner, I'll show you some billboards of what's coming in the future. You can see Sheffield Parkway there, and on the other side of there is Sheffield, and you also find lots of new warehouse units being built over there. I'm just hoping I can actually see these signs. You can see the Advanced Manufacturing Park being advertised, and what I can't understand is why these are not built on a ring road round Rotherham Town Centre on old industrial land, or around Sheffield City Centre on old industrial land. At the moment we're building high-rise flats all around Sheffield City Centre on brownfield sites that would be fantastic for buildings like this. So this is actually took up an old woodland when it could have been built on old brownfield sites around well, either, like I said, around Sheffield or Rotherham. I'm a bit biased towards Sheffield. So just across here you've got Harworth, and these are people who are behind all the development here. Quite a big office, isn't it? Massive contract. I reckon it's well over £1 trillion for this area, if not a lot more. Then you've got work-life balance, but as long as you're driving your car to the supermarket, can't see many corner shops here, and the only businesses I've seen are businesses that people probably register from home. And this is supposed to be their new town centre. Now, I lived on the Southall estate at Bayton behind the Belfry, overlooking Rother Valley back in the early 1990s, and we had Crystal Peak Shopping Centre. To be honest with you, I never liked it, but it was indoor. I prefer more the 19th century type looking buildings in Sheffield City Centre that we're losing at the moment. So I'll get back down to the roundabout where the hotel is and take you down there to the other end. So up there you can see, I think that's the Boeing place for the Advanced Manufacturing Park up there. Then your Courtyard by Marriott. Then just a bit further beyond here, this Whitby's Fish and Chip Shop restaurant. Now I've done quite some walking around this site to get here, and I'm not seeing many people out actually walking. Most people are actually driving the cars. So if you're a net zero believer, and you're living at Waverley, you're out in your car all the time. I'm not seeing many people on cycles or on foot around here. But on my left hand side you've got Catcliffe, right hand side you've got Waverley, so that'll probably be in Waverley. So all this lot on this side will all be in Waverley. On the left hand side of me will be in Catcliffe. Now Waverley's been created from Catcliffe and Orgreave, and the only bit of Orgreave left is a little bit of Orgreave down at Woodhouse Mill. The rest of it's gone, and same again with Catcliffe, it's probably halved in size possibly. So what I'll do is I'll pick up a bit further down so I don't bore you at all. So here again I'm believing this is on the Waverley side, but I think a lot of the postcodes need updating because all the businesses on the advanced manufacturing part say Catcliffe, whereas now they're actually in Waverley. So once I get round the corner you can see the housing, and then I'll pick up. If you look down there, when I get to the bottom of there I'll pick back up again. So we're now at that bottom end of that road. You can see the houses here. On this side of the road you've got Catcliffe. It's quite distinctive, Waverley, and all the supporting evidence is in my description for everything. So if anybody denies any of it, it's all in the description. I'll just pop across the road and show you the River Rother at this point. So you can see now the River Rother, and that's actually going down towards Catcliffe. On this side, on my right hand side, is coming up from Woodhouse Mill, where you could see that sluice gate which I wanted to show you at the start. And there was a reason. They shut that gate off at that side and flood the fields. But in 2006 there was an absolute terrible flood on this side of the sluice gate. Now yes, it's got these metal things along in here, but if you get right down to Catcliffe again, the water can just come straight over the side of the river banks. So if we have any serious flooding like we did back in 2006, and we have those sorts of things every 30, 40, 50 years, people have forgot about the flooding back then. So I'm on what's the B606 again, Orgreave Road, which is the one that went right into Handsworth. It's called something High Lane, so that takes you down to Catcliffe. And this is the original B6066. So on the left hand side of here, anywhere on the left hand side where the houses are built would be where the old coking plant was, and this is called Highfield Lane. It's always been called Highfield Lane. If you go into Handsworth, it's called Highfield Lane at Handsworth, but it's not the B6066 anymore. The B6066 goes straight up this right hand side, across the top and back round the other side. So and that was actually put through like that when the open cast mined the site. So my belief, from looking at the 2006 images that you've got in the description, you'll see that they've probably open cast mined the whole site where they built houses. The only part that's not had any open cast mine on it is the advanced manufacturing part that was old woodland. So I just want to give you an idea of the housing in here. There's various different kinds. I'm trying to give a balanced approach. Like I say, I don't like any 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s etc. housing estates, even though I've owned houses on them. I think that's all that's available. But I do think developers can do a whole lot better than what they do, but it is purely about money. You see the flashing pound signs. So, like again, to the left of me, give or take, 100 foot or so, would have been the old coking plant. And remember, I don't believe a coking plant just produced coke. It produced all the various different things from coal. So coke would be the end product, but they would have siphoned off various different chemicals along the way. We've got Woodhouse view here. But my whole point with the planning is, it was the same in Anston when my family moved in. We had one row of shops at what they call the pond, and that's all we had. We had to walk the mile to Dinnington to go shopping, but we did have corner shops and things like that. Well, there's nothing here, there's no corner shops that I've seen. I'm cutting right through the middle of it on purpose to show you. Running across the road. You can see the back of the AMRC up there. But I'll just pick up a bit further up the road. There's some more of the housing in here. Back of the AMRC up there somewhere. On the left hand side of me was the school, which I wasn't showing, but according to it, it's just a junior school. Now Anston, where I grew up, which is on comparable side to Waverley, is had 4 junior infant schools. There's just one junior school by the looks of it in Waverley. 1 fish and chip shop, 1 pub, 4,000 houses. Please tell me, when you plan a town, don't you build the town centre first? Because it's been around a few years now. Just want to give you a good view of the different type of housing in here. I'll let you make your own mind up on it. But it's for my 450 subscribers who know exactly where I'm coming from against the United Nations Agenda 2030 that all the councils are working to, even though they won't admit it. I mean, I've done a freedom of information request to Sheffield City Council and they deny that 15 Minute City has any ulterior motives. But remember, what was it, 3 weeks to flatten the curve? So whatever, I don't hear a full retractment of 15-minute cities. I believe they're going to be happening by stealth. If you want to live in a 15-minute city, that's your problem. But if it's used as a test bed for us and the rest of Rotherham or Sheffield, then I do have an issue with it. If you've got any complaints aren't against me. Complaints should be against the developers and Rotherham Council. Flood them with your cries of unhappiness, not me. I'm just the canary in the cage, and the mining folk used to use that when they went down a pit shaft to make sure there was no gases down there. Well, I'm the canary in the cage, warning you. Or you could say I'm like the little boy with his finger in the dike in Holland. 15-minute cities don't have to happen, but you have to be aware what they are to ensure they don't happen. So we're now coming back up to Orgreave, so Orgreave colliery will be to the left hand side of me now, down towards the lakes. That's another issue. I've just seen it, buses. How'd you go on for buses round here? There's a temporary bus stop there. Just show it you. Temporary bus stop. See the lakes from here. And that must be the road for more houses down there. In fact, if I just zoom in down there, you can see the lights down there. I'm not sure what the iron's for. Is this to denote what Rotherham did with the blast furnaces at Park Gate? Due to what happened to my first video on Waverley, took it down because I had a lot of outcries. I thought I'd got something wrong, but no, I hadn't. So I've put more substantiating evidence actually in the description. I now authorise every comment, and if got no issue with correcting me about things, but attack me personally and your comments won't get through. And the other thing is, I ain't worked on my business for years, so the bright sparks who thought they could go on my business page and badmouth me. I ain't worked with clients for years and years. I'm sort of retired, drawing my private pension from HSBC. But I do offer you free hypnotherapy recordings on my YouTube channel. So that's it. We're now back at the Orgreave side, more on that left hand side, and I'm going to walk across the roundabout and go back into Handsworth and find my car in Handsworth. So I hope you enjoyed it. A journey around Waverley, but also taking into account Orgreave. And like I said, this roundabout here, I think we should have a wheel to remember Orgreave, because nobody knows what these coal seams mean. Or don't people want Orgreave to be mentioned?